Hello, everybody. Look it, I have videos. It's time for us to talk about some strange videos again. I've been watching a lot of them, and so it's time to discuss them. And if you've seen these movies, or if you're interested in seeing some strange movies, these are all suggestions for you. Leave comments if you want to, questions if you want to, whatever you want to do, just do it. Feel free to be yourself. The first movie I want to share with you, I really love. I watched it actually on Halloween night. And so I'm wondering if anybody else has seen this movie. It's called Love Me Deadly. Love Me Deadly. And it has everything you could want from a movie made in 1972 about necrophilia. Including the star of the movie is Lyle Wagner. So, now, if you know anything about me and you don't, like my ultimate crush is a young Lyle Wagner, or Carol Burnett kind of era Lyle Wagner when he was just played handsome man. So anytime I hear Lyle Wagner, I'm on it. I want to know what it's all about, and I never even knew this movie existed until recently. So I had to watch it, and just knowing that it's like. It's about necrophilia, which is one of those topics that even horror movies won't touch or discuss. And it's actually treated as if there's nothing wrong with it, in a sense. At least the characters in it who are necrophiliacs, they start a whole group. They call it a cult, but it just seems like a support group, really. And one of the people who runs it is a mortician, of course, so he's got access to dead bodies all the time. The main character is this young lady who has daddy issues, of course, who goes to funerals, even if she doesn't know the people. She looks through the obits, looks for a man, usually, of a certain age, goes to the funeral, and when everyone else clears out of the wake, she goes up and she, kisses him and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird, but she doesn't really want to deal with her issues. So she ends up meeting Lyle Wagner at a funeral, and of a brother who she kisses, and so she falls in love with him. And the thing about it is that, okay, again, if Lyle Wagner is your crush and like your fantasy man, and you just imagine as a young lady, as a young sorrow, like some fantasy man is going to come into your life and he's going to sweep you away. And he's going to be like perfect in every way, like super nice and attentive. And even like when you're a complete crazy bitch, he's still like, oh, I am very understanding of that. And, I understand that you need your space. And so I'll let you go and dance at a cemetery if you need to. Because that's what Lyle Wagner does in this movie. Like, no matter what this woman does, he's there for her. Like, he loves her. That's the perfect man, if you ask me. And so I've got some pictures up here from the movie too. I just thought I would start doing this as well as part of the reviews, just to show you a couple of things. So first off, we'll pull this one down. This is what the young lady looks like, and that other gentleman there is her other boyfriend. And he kind of tries to pressure her into sex at one point, and she scratches his face, and he calls her a bitch at a party. It happens. He's in the whole movie trying to figure out what her deal is too. Lyle Wagner's in the whole movie trying to figure out what her deal is too. Even in the end, you don't really quite understand what her deal is. But there's so much good about this movie. For example, it has its own theme song. There's the Love Me Deadly theme song. Love theme to Love Me Deadly. There is lots of 1972's nudity. So if you want to see like hairy hippies and stuff like that nude, it's in the movie. You get booby and you get peen as well. There's this great scene in here. The actor, I believe his name is William Quinn, plays this ride boy that the mortician picks up and takes him to the mortuary. And he tells the kid, oh, I'm a veterinarian. That's why I've got all this medical looking stuff. But, he's just trained. He don't know what a hospital or anything looks like. So he's like, okay, cool. And the whole time, the scene, it's almost like it's done in one take. He doesn't stop talking the entire time. And even when he's being strapped to the table, when he's having needles and knives stuck in him, when they start putting embalming fluid in him, he just talks the entire time. I mean, he's scared. He's all like, don't do this, don't do this. And they just keep doing it. So like after the fourth or fifth time that they've done something, And he said, don't do this. You would think he would start to scream something else, but no, he just kind of goes with it. So we get to see his peen, and that's interesting. But the other thing is, here's a picture of the cult, the support group, I like to say. And this is the first time that the girl's going to the support group, and they're like, yeah, just come and hang out. You know, we're just all going to be over there on Sunday. And she walks into the room, and it's like, uh-oh. Don't walk in on a necrophiliac's support group. Don't do it. Unless, you know, you're also a necrophiliac. But because the thing is, she walks in and she freaks out and then she leaves. And then the guy here who looks a little bit like, you know, Jim Henson or whatever. He's like, oh, I get it. Don't worry. You like more one-on-one encounters. So I'll set that up for you. Like, I'll find you dead bodies that you can just kind of be all gross on by yourself. So it just interests me that this topic is discussed in this movie in the way that it is. It's almost like this is almost more taboo than like zombies or, you know, serial killers or any of these other vampires, werewolves, whatever. I mean, the idea of necrophilia, that someone would have an attraction to someone who is passed. And in this movie, part of it seems to be that she has a lot of guilt because she killed her father, and her father was very loving towards her. So she, it's almost like they suggest that she's afraid to get intimate with anybody who could respond back because she might hurt them. So that might be reading into it a lot, but that's what I do. I like to read into movies, but this movie is like, it's 10 stars if you can possibly give a movie 10 stars. It's just perfect in every way. And this is another one of my favorite scenes here because I just gasp when I think about it. This is when Lyle Wagner sees her, and she's actually naked on top of a dead body, kissing him. And I'm just like, girl, you're married to Lyle Wagner. Why would you do this? You have Lyle Wagner, you don't need... And again, in the movie, it's not like he's mean or anything like that. He's super, super nice, like way nicer than human beings actually are. But I feel like that's who Lyle Wagner really is. So, I just, you know, and then I have to show you this too, because this is like, you know, this is Lyle Wagner. This is one of my favorite pictures of Lyle Wagner. It's from the very first issue of Playgirl. He was the very first Playgirl centerfold. And I don't know how it happened, but I remember being a child and getting to see this as a child, and I'll never look at little yellow, green, lime green Speedos the same. So if you look like this, leave a comment, please. Or if you know somebody who looks like that, your father or whoever. So there's that. That movie is my number one for you to go and see. Another one I want you to see if you haven't yet, and this is a Something Weird video, and it's, I would say, one of their classics. It's Confessions of a Psycho Cat. This movie, I've been hearing about it for the longest time. I mean, it's basically like The Dangerous Game, you know, she hunts men, basically. But it's so much better than I thought it was going to be. The story is basic, but the acting is really good. The way it's shot is really good, and it's so strange that I can't help but be drawn into it. So basically, the main character is this girl named Virginia, and she has found 3 men who we find out have killed somebody or been around when somebody died. They may not have always directly been responsible for it. But she feels that they are killers. And so she brings them to her house, and she tells them, I'll give you a bunch of money if you let me hunt you. And what I'm going to do is the day of the hunt, so you have 24 hours to survive. So the day of the hunt, I'll send you a registered letter, because, you know, there was no emails back then. I'll send you a registered letter saying the game is on. It'll have a check in it, and it'll be post-dated for 24 hours from now. And if you survive, you know, me hunting you down, cash the check, it's yours, right? Because she's rich too. So we find that out as well, that she's got enough money to make this thing happen. And what is so good about this actress, I don't know what her name is it Eileen Lord, maybe? I don't know, but she is so good in this movie because she has to play crazy, and then she has to play sing. So in between the scenes of her hunting men down, and in between the scenes of her talking to her therapist about how she's doing, we learn, of course, that she's had some trauma of her own that turned her into a psycho cat. So what's interesting about the movie is the three types of men that she's decided that she's going to kill. The first one that we meet is just a sort of a layabout hippie kind of type, druggy type. And his scenes he's what introduces the movie. He comes in the movie, it's him being hunted, he escapes and runs to an apartment where his friends are having an orgy or a party or whatever. It happens. What's funny about it is that the acting there is almost comical because everybody at the party, it's an orgy, are taking off their clothes, so there's a lot of boobs and stuff like that. But no one's really that interested in sex. And the reason they're not interested in sex is because everyone's waiting for some other guy, not even the initial guy I'm talking about, to show up with the drugs. So that, we can start getting off. We can't get off unless there's drugs there. So I don't know what that's all about. There's even a funny scene where one girl is like, you're just trying to make me take off my clothes. And you told me this party was going to have drugs, real drugs, not marijuana. So I want to be in another life. But anyhow, so that's one of the guys. And he's the one who kind of narrates the whole story. Because when he runs into his friend's apartment and he's all distraught, they're like, what's going on? And he tells them, well, this is what's going on. This woman offered you money, blah, 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 blah. These two other guys were there, blah, 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 blah. Another one of the characters she's going to execute is an actor. That scene is kind of fun when she goes to the theater to kill him. And the way that she gets him to leave his apartment to go to the theater is really interesting. And the way that he tries to double cross her so that he can keep the money is really interesting. And the third person is celebrity guest star Jake LaMotta. So if you know anything about boxing, and you know anything about Jake LaMotta, and you have an inkling of what you think his acting style might be, you're right. He is just an absolute grappler, gravel mouth, I break you type in the entire movie. But it works because it's his character in this movie. And he has probably the most extravagant of all the kills in this movie because she kind of gives them characters too. Because she says, oh, you're sort of like a fox, and you're a weasel, and you're a lion, and you're a this. She says to Jake LaMotta, you're the bull, you're big and strong and you think you can take anyone on, but I'm going to hunt you anyways. And he's like, sister, I will break you. So when they get to their scene, she's dressed up as a matador and she's got the bull sticks and she's like, Kaka, I'm going to get you. And, music is playing and it's just and it's shot so well. It's a black and white movie, but there's so many creative things going on in this movie as far as visually and the direction and the camera work and everything like that. This is another 10 for 10 movie as far as I'm concerned. You have to see this movie if you like strange movies. And what I love also about it, this is a feminist movie because the woman wins actually in the end here. Usually when you see a movie where somebody is crazy, women. She doesn't win in the end because then they explain to you why she's crazy and they go, see, this is why we have to put her down. And then, of course, we'd never see from her again. But I'll just say that the ending to this movie is very satisfying. It was to me anyways. And I will leave it at that. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a must-see movie. It's definitely a must-see movie. And what I love also, too, about it is all the little inserts of the orgy. Are basically just an excuse for girls to take off their top, right? Which, of a movie of this caliber, of this age, where else were you going to see boobies on the movie screen, right? So I don't know if this was ever sold as if it was like a TNA kind of thing or, went to adult theater or something like that, because it's really not that kind of movie. It really is more of a psychological thriller. So get Confessions of a Psycho Cat. You will not be disappointed in it. So I've got two other Something Weird videos. I think I'll talk about those two first before I end up with our last movie that's up here. One that I watched that is quite popular, I guess. I always hear about it all the time, so I was like, wow, I want to see what this movie's all about. And also has a surprise celebrity guests in it. Is Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blast Off Girls. So this is got a double feature in here, but I watched Blast Off Girls. It's What's Happening, Baby. And it's such a strange little movie. Is it good? Well, It is a testament of the Wills. We'll put it that way. This is sort of like, it makes me think of like Herschel Gordon Lewis was trying to do the Monkees. It's basically the story of this rock band who have a manager named Bougie, who is really the most interesting character in the entire movie. He basically plies them with girls and drugs to control them so that he can get them to eventually record music and be on television and become a big sensation, right? And how else are you going to get people to listen to you and become a big... I mean, did we learn nothing from Dr. Luke? You've got to use drugs and you've got to motivate your stars. So that's basically what he does. And what's so funny about this movie, and kind of lame in a way for a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, now that we're talking about it, because he doesn't shy away from nudity. And there were plenty of times a girl could have took her top off in this movie. But for some reason, even though Bougie uses girls to get TV execs and record producers to be on his side, and they never ever take off their clothes. And I just find that really odd for a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, that the women aren't removing their tops. They're basically walking up to the guy, just acting like, oh, hello, you seem really interesting to me all of a sudden. Let's go over in this corner and talk. And then you see them for the whole conversation, because why waste film, right? Talk. And then they just separate. And the guy goes, yeah, Bougie, I'll do whatever you want me to do now. I talked to a girl for 2 minutes. Ooh. So... I'm just like, the only person in this movie who actually gets any action, and I wish I knew this actor's name. Someday I'll look it up. I just can't be bothered right now. Plays the record producer, and he's the same guy who does the wonderful speech in Scum of the Earth, that is on all the something weird videos, about you kids, you make me sick. He is in this movie too, and he's wonderful in this movie. He's also in Something Weird, the movie, and he was really good in that as well. So he's a really good actor. Maybe perhaps next time I'll actually look up what his name is. Or if you know, just comment and let me know what his name is. But he's such a good actor. He's really good in this one too. And the thing that he's the only one who seems like he might have gotten any action in this movie. What happens though in this movie is... on the road to success and possibly to get the movie financed, the band are traveling to go to a gig, and they get hungry and they run into a restaurant, and the manager of the band says to the guy, hey, I've got a hungry rock band outside. The guy inside says, I've got food. So what I'll do is, if you can have your rock band just set up and play a couple of tunes for us, I'll give you all food. So I wish... I'm sure Avril Lavigne wishes it was that easy nowadays, but, and who would that person be? Is it Ronald McDonald? No, it's not. It's Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders is in this movie. Now, if you're a young person, you have no idea who Colonel Sanders is, and you don't know what Kentucky Fried Chicken is. You know what KFC is, but that's not real chicken. He is in this movie, and it is brilliant for a child of my age to see... someone just pop up, and it is absolutely a cameo. After that little scene, he sets up things outside. The band plays a couple of songs. He's in the scene just kind of bobbing his head like, yeah, this is fun. And it's Colonel Sanders. It's like watching an icon, just getting down to this music. And the music is terrible. But the scene with Colonel Sanders is wonderful. So if you can just see only that scene, maybe it's on YouTube or something like that, then it's worth it. Otherwise, like I said, this is sort of like if it was, he's trying to do the Monkees or something. It's not A Hard Day's Night for sure, because the band's not that good. And it's really got a hard edge to it because the manager isn't nice. He basically uses them and tells them all, I'm going to supply you with drugs and girls, and so that you're compliant to whatever I want you to do. And at one point, he even has the police in on it to have them all sign their lives away to him. So it's not a feel good. It's not a feel good for sure. But there is some comeuppance in the end. And what's so funny about it is that at the end, when they do get their comeuppance, they do this like kind of crazy music montage thing a la the Monkees. So it's sort of like, I'm not sure what direction they were going with this. Maybe that's why it's not one of my all-time favorites, but it's worth seeing for Colonel Sanders. So if you've got finger-licking good feelings about that, you could go and see that one. Another one I wanted to talk about that I watched is this movie called Hooked. So, a lot of these are double feature ones, but Hooked was really good. And what I liked about it is that, okay, it was originally a movie called like Curfew Breakers or something. And it's one of those movies that, they make and they would show at schools to be like, be a good kid or otherwise this is what's going to happen to you. And this one was about breaking curfew. So, now to a child of today, what is curfew? What does that even mean? I wish there still were curfews, but since most of you spend your time on the computer anyways, you're not really outside. So, who cares, right? But there was a time when people wanted to do things outdoors, wanted to hang out outdoors, like you and your friends would actually physically be in the same room and talk and do things. Most of them would be just dance the jitterbug. And that's what this movie does. So it's basically the story of these kids who are constantly trying to find ways to, get to dance together and drink together, smoke together and stuff. And it's fun to see these kind of 1950s, white people dancing kind of movies. I always like things like that because they're funny. And the thing is also that no one in this movie does anything remotely close to rebelling, in my opinion. So it's just fun to see them treated as if this would be the worst thing ever. But, that's how they felt back in the day. I watched another movie. I don't have the box for it or anything like that, called Highway Hell. And it was another one of these cautionary tales about watch out because there are strange women who stand on the side of the road and they say, going my way, and they'll get in your car and they won't rob you. That's the thing about the movie. They didn't rob anybody. They will have sex with you for something, like money probably. In one scene, this girl actually has sex for a little calf because that's all the farmer has in the back of his truck is a calf. So she brings the calf with her. She's like, here, no money, but I've got that. So, and it's just sort of funny to think like, what? There was a time when this was actually a concern, like somebody made a movie about this. Like, we have to make a cautionary tale about the women standing on the side of the road who will steal your calf. So that's kind of what this movie is. It's like there are kids out there who don't understand how bad curfew is. So the reason it became Hooked as opposed to the Curfew Breakers is because someone realized that the idea of breaking curfew was lame. So they decided they would add some extra footage to the movie, as you do sometimes with these movies. And this was about a young man who got addicted to drugs. So they started to add this whole side movie, this whole other movie about this drug dealer, of course, who was selling to white kids, and we can't have that. Poor white children. And how one child got addicted and sent to jail and all this kind of, and that part becomes really very almost like documentary. It's like one kid, we follow him between getting addicted to selling himself to getting caught by the cops, going to jail, going through rehab, going through withdrawal. So we have to watch him have all these like shivers and night terrors and stuff like that. Because, it's almost like the scene from, what was it? The other movie I watched where they had the baby being born. Where it's like all a regular movie and then suddenly full color screen scene of somebody having an abortion. So that's what this one is like. It's like, okay, it's all very light and nice and black and white and, and white people are interesting, I guess. And then, and then suddenly it's like, oh, but by the way, full color blast somebody going through withdrawals from drugs and stuff. So don't do heroin, if is the message there. So I guess I won't. But, it's worth a little gander, I think. Those kind of movies can be fun, I think, when it's like these cautionary tales and stuff like that. Because it's interesting to think about, like, what were people concerned with? Like, what did they really think were major issues? Like right now, I think somebody should do a cautionary tale about what happens when you don't vote. So that's all I got for something weird. The last movie is the one I've got up here. And I watched this the other day, and we watched Chopping Mall, which is a really good movie. If you haven't seen that, from the 80s, from the Sherman Oaks Galleria. And so it was suggested that if you like that movie, you'll like this movie. And the reason I'm talking about this one as opposed to Chopping Mall, well, Chopping Mall's good, is that this one is so strange, and it's so good, and it's so bad that it's good. And it is this movie called Death Spa. Can you see this little piece of paper that I folded up here? I don't know. It's not the best day. One person's kind of in a sauna, and one person's over here on this exercise machine dying. Death Spa. I believe it's from 1986, and it looks like it's from 1986. Everybody is wearing dance skins. Everybody, everything is neon and crazy, asymmetrical things. And the basic story of it is that there's this gentleman who owns a spa, and it is computer. Everything's run by computer, which okay, we don't even have that today. But apparently in the 80s, that was the way it was going to be. And so this means that the temperature of the pool is controlled by the computer. All of the workout machines, like repetitions or what you would do, the weights would be by a machine. The sun tanning room, because this is a sun tanning room. Apparently the diving boards are controlled by a machine. And what's funny about this, well, there's a lot of funny things, but what's one of the funny things about this movie is that one of the villains of the movie is the actor who plays Spike on Square Pegs. He plays the brother of the gentleman who owns the spa's sister, wife. Wait a minute. The owner's wife's brother. Okay, there we go. And so he's also the only one who knows how to use the computers. So they've got a computer room at this spa, and people start mysteriously dying. But the funny thing about this movie is that people aren't dying well, there's a couple people who die alone, like they're there after night and then they get chopped and then next morning somebody finds them. But there's a lot of scenes where people are dying when a bunch of people are around them, but no one seems to care about that. They just go along with their workout and just keep doing their thing. For example, this little tidbit here, this gentleman here is being pulled apart on his exercise machine. His arms are being pulled back behind his body, but for some reason in the movie, blood starts squirting out over here on the side of it. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean anatomically, what that's supposed to mean. I just wanted to show you his bulge. So there we go. But anyways, he dies in front of everybody, and no one really cares. A couple people rush to help him, but that's it. But then like 20 other people are behind him, just working out and having fun. It looks like a really fun environment as long as you don't die. The other good thing about it, because it's an 80s movie, tons and tons of boobs. It's lovely ladies in dance skins, but we're talking full naked boobage, bush, all kinds of stuff. What's not to love? That's one of the things that I miss about the 80s and movies back in the day. We had to work very hard to see bush in a movie. And so you have to appreciate a movie like this that gives you like 5 or 6 different ladies naked in a movie for you. Even if the concept is strange. So now while people are dying at this spa, the owner isn't all that concerned, but he is upset because, this one's falling, it is upset because he had planned a Mardi Gras party at the spa that was going to make everything better. And if anybody finds out that, that all this stuff has been happening, then it might ruin the Mardi Gras party. So while he's trying to make sure that nothing else happens, his girlfriend gets her abs all broken. I don't know how to put it. And I just have to show you this scene. This is her being fed by him. It's feeding her some asparagus, as you do. And she's got like little Kotex on her eyes or whatever like that. And what is the funniest thing about this is that to cover up her bandages and stuff like that, she wears like these super cool 80s like gold glasses, sunglasses, and everybody's dressed just like in the 80s. It's just, it's a time warp. It takes you right back there to where everyone was basically working out and dying at the gym. The other thing is that the music is all like, friends of the producer or something like that, all the bands, but it's very of that time. It's very 80s. It's very punk rock, very new wave. There's even a little kind of like Rasta, English beat kind of tune in there. And it's not by any known people. Like I said, it's just friends of the producer, whoever came up with the song, but it fits perfectly with this. The best thing that happens, of course, is the Mardi Gras party, right? A Mardi Gras party at a spa. So everybody's in costume or in dance skin, Everybody is dancing, doing their white people dancing, and people are dying. And we find out in the course of the movie that the person who's been doing this might have been the brother of the owner's wife who died. But it turns out, well, should I ruin it? I don't know. Will you still go see it even if I ruin it? Well, I guess I don't want to give away the who the culprit is, but it's just funny what happens as the Mardi Gras party progresses and they are figuring out like why everybody is dying. Because it starts to go into this very surreal place. As I mentioned, people are dying left and right. The doors have been closed of the spa. There's no way to get out. But no one seems to care that that is happening. They're dancing and partying and having fun. It isn't until the very, very end when we start to see explosions and fire that people are more like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just an act. I don't know. It's so I just love the way that it kind of built like that. The insanity and the surrealism of it just kept building in something so like I don't know how to describe it. So strange. So that movie actually was on Netflix or Amazon. One of the ones. You have to see Death Spa. That's all I have to say. So I hope that you enjoyed this little blip of a movie, strange movies to watch. Leave a comment if you would like, because I like to talk about strange movies, and I would love to, hear what you have to say if you've seen any of these movies, or if you haven't, and want to know how you can see them. If I know a way, I'll get it to you. But for sure, you've got to see Confessions of a Psycho Cat, and for sure, you've got to see Love Me Deadly, and for sure, you've got to see Death Spa. They're just perfection, What can I say? Until next time.